Voy por todo lo soñado y sé que yo lo lograré. Desde morro le he perreado.
I'm up early this morning to show you guys how to make a classic Mexican breakfast dish, chilaquiles. Specifically, Chilaquiles de Aguascalientes from the Essential Cuisines of Mexico by Diana Kennedy. Chilaquiles has many different regional variations and recipes, but at its core, it's a layer of fried leftover tortillas buried under a thick salsa cooked in oil with cheese, protein, and vegetables layered in between. This particular recipe is from Aguascalientes, a city in central Mexico, and hits a ton of those classic Mexican flavors most Americans are familiar with. Thank me later once you try this. We're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm going to do is make some homemade tortilla chips. So I've got 12 tortillas that I've cut into sixths, and then I've got some oil that I've heated up to about 350 degrees, and we're just going to go ahead and put these in. And we'll just work in batches here and just fry them until they get crispy. And then we're going to take them out and put them to drain on this plate here with some paper towels. While the chips are frying, I've gone ahead and set this up. I'm going to go ahead and put 2 plum tomatoes and a tablespoon and a half of white sesame seeds under the broiler to toast the seeds and to char the tomatoes. I've cleaned out the pot. We're going to do that a couple times in this recipe just to reduce the amount of dishes that we're going to have. And now I've got 3 chorizo links, and I've turned the heat down to medium, and we're just going to crumble. This is Mexican chorizo, by the way, not Spanish chorizo, but we're going to crumble those and get these cooked up here and fry off. They get a little oily when you cook them, so we don't want to burn them and we don't want them charred, but we want to cook off some of that oil, which we'll probably dispose of, and get some sausage crumbles for our chilaquiles. This is about the level of doneness we want for the chorizo here. So now we're just going to remove these to a little container, and we're going to set them aside to use later in the recipe. Now I've brought the pot to a boil with just some plain water. And these are tomatillos. If you've never cooked with them before, make sure you remove the husk and you also wash off sort of the sticky residue left over. But go ahead and just put those in. And we're just going to cook these until they get a slightly duller green. And that means they're cooked all the way through. Watch them though and make sure that they don't burst. And then we'll have them ready for the sauce. We are ready to assemble our sauce. So I'm going to put the blistered tomatoes as well as the tomatillos in the blender. And then a few sprigs of cilantro. This is a 1/4 cup of chopped white onion. Couple of crushed garlic cloves, our toasted sesame seeds. This is Mexican oregano, which is different than regular oregano. You can definitely just get it online though if you don't have it in your kitchen. So just it says 1/8 of a teaspoon, but we're not going to measure. We're just going to put a little bit in there. We need to put in salt to taste. I'm going to start with just that, and we can adjust later. And then these are chipotles in adobo, and we want 4 of those chipotles in here. Which is almost a whole can, but not quite. Some of those juices in there too. And now we're just going to blend all of this up until we get a smooth paste. Back to our pot for the last time. I've heated up a couple of tablespoons of oil, and now we're going to fry off the sauce as you do with so many Mexican sauces. And we just want to cook this for a few minutes here to thicken it up, and you might see a little bit of a color change as well. That also happens frequently with Mexican sauces. The sauce is done, and we're ready to assemble the chilaquiles. So on a platter, you want to arrange a layer of tortilla chips, and then we're going to put a layer of just crumbling cheese, queso fresco, on top of that. And then we're also going to put a little bit of the chorizo. Fill in these nooks and crannies with some flavor. And now we're going to spoon in our sauce on top of that. Now, you know that's not all there is to it. We've got more chips. So now we're going to put another layer of chips on top of the ones that we just have here. And now we're going to do the same thing again. We're just going to put another layer of cheese on top of that. Go ahead and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. And some more chorizo on top of that as well. And then once again, a layer of sauce. And once you get all the layers that you'd like, we're going to go ahead and pop this into the oven at 350 for about 15 to 20 minutes. I just took the chilaquiles out of the oven. You know we're not done yet, right? There's got to be toppings. This is Mexican food. The baking makes it so the sauce is absorbed into the layers of tortillas, and it makes the tortillas on the inside soft, like I said, almost like a noodle. If you order it from a restaurant, a lot of times you'll see it's all soaked in sauce, and so it's all easily cut through with a knife. I like the combination of having this sort of outer ring of crunchy tortilla chips with the soft layers on the inside, so I make mine this way. But let's go ahead and get to our toppings. And we're first going to start with just a big helping of queso fresco across the top. And then we're going to put the rest of the chorizo on top of that. Up next, we're going to put a layer of thinly sliced white onion. Whenever you're making Mexican, by the way, you always, or not always, but almost always want to use white onion. Then we'll put some cilantro for a little splash of green. And we'll finish it off with radishes. I love radishes, and you might be surprised at how often they're used in Mexican cuisine, but we tend to like them on top of tacos, on top of just about anything. All right, here we go. This is our chilaquiles. This is, like I said, a classic Mexican breakfast dish. It hits all of those, this particular variety. Some make it with eggs. You'll see it with scrambled eggs if you get it from like a taco truck. It probably won't look quite as put together as this one, but it probably tastes better than mine, no joke. Like, better Mexican food is from these hole-in-the-wall trucks or just hole-in-the-wall restaurants in general. But it hits this wonderful Mexican chorizo note. The sauce, I've tasted it, is very spicy, but it's also really good. And frying it in oil, double frying it, is a classic Mexican cooking technique. But this plate here could feed 4 people for breakfast quite easily. Just divvy it up like nachos almost. So I encourage you to check out some of my other Mexican videos. Mexican home cooking in general is one of my passions. It's something I love to make as frequently as possible. Like I said, my grandfather is from Mexico, so I know I make a lot of food from a lot of different places, but this is one of my favorites. In any event, I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoy it.